Fellas, introduce yourselves.
You start.
Okay. My name is Christoffer Weber. I am the CEO of a company called Wiretronic in Sweden.
Okay.
And my name is Henrik Rosseland, and I'm sales responsible for the company.
Okay.
Within the company.
Last night, David and I were walking through the tool show here at ETI, and I see a box of connectors.
Yeah.
And connectors have always, I am a tech at heart, and so connectors have always had a special place in my heart. And you pick up that connector and you show me with your cell phone that you can scan that connector with your cell phone, and you can show me the part number, and you can show me the wire number, and you can show me the tool number. Tell me about this product because it is insane.
Well, actually, we started off as producing breakout boxes for, in the beginning it was only Volvo.
Okay.
But we've done quite a few for Ferrari, McLaren, sports car manufacturers.
Well, now I feel kind of bad about talking bad about Volvo at lunch.
I'm a Volvo fan, by the way. I love Volvo cars. Everybody hates them. I love the crap out of them. They're so cool.
That's because you're not the one having to work on them.
I know. I let my techs handle that. Anyway.
It's a Swedish car.
Well, and the first couple of years, we only supplied them with harnesses of those kind. But over the years, we turned out to develop also prototype harness for the new coming cars.
Okay.
And in that process, we have one guy who is really an expert of connectors in the company. And we said we need something to help him out identifying connectors. And I myself have been very interested in AI for many, many years. And lately I've studied quite a lot of that. And we said that why don't we try to develop something that we can use ourselves? And this turned out to, we used the local university to develop a prototype, almost like this Google Lens, but for connectors. So we trained them up on the connectors that we have ourselves. The problem then was that the precision was quite low, so we didn't get, the result was not that fantastic. And then we said it looks good, but so we employed a few guys just out of the university, and they developed a system for us together with us. And now we have like 10 people working on this field. And that is actually the result. So we try to do identification and do something sort of the low-hanging fruit for AI in automotive.
Right. And we just heard a lot about AI, and we heard kind of the thought process behind AI. When you hear a presentation like that, what is your first thought? Because we had some additional conversations at lunch about where we're headed. What is your first thought when you hear a presentation like you heard at lunch?
Well, I think there's a lot of presentations from people who have identified AI as something cool and interesting to be in, and of course it's like a revolution. But I mean, having been involved with it quite deeply for some time, a lot of the things will take much longer time than the people who tell us about it and want to make people kind of scared about it. It's a feeling that people who talk about it, that don't know about it, want to make people kind of react about it. So I think there's some things that looks kind of dangerous or annoying, or can be talk about this, that it will take people's jobs. But I think it's quite reverse. I think it will help a lot of people with it. So I'm not really, having learned about it quite a lot, I don't feel scared about it at all. I think it's a lot of boring stuff will be sorted out by it.
Right.
And in the same way, like internet came like 20, 25 years ago, people said, yes, it's going to be just a small bubble and then turn away. And now everyone just is pervasive.
We live on it, right? It is life as you know it right now.
Yeah.
And what were you going to say?
No, I want to know about the little connector. You take a picture of it. You guys also producing the different connectors?
Yeah, no, we partner with them. We have a very close relationship with the connector suppliers, like Tyco, Sumitomo, JE. We work very close to them because when we produce a harness, the OEM tells us what to do and how to create it. So we purchase it from the supplier. So that's why we know them quite well. We do produce extraction tools ourselves. We used to buy them a lot, but we said that if a mechanic always have to kind of be very delicate when they try to extract a cable out of a connector. So we said, why don't we develop something where actually the extraction tool fits perfectly to the connector, and then he just don't have to be the expert of what kind of wiggling and getting the things right. And that's why we did this, and we did the first one we did for Aston Martin, and they got a tool together with a set of connectors for their chassis harness. And then I think it was last year, we got a order from Volvo to produce extraction tools for them. And we did this. We had to buy our own special machine to do this. This machine is very precise. It's down to 10 micrometers precision in how it cuts out the tools.
That's pretty impressive. And you know,
the tools have always been kind of just generic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're little pokey bits, and
we have to develop these specifically for the connector. So we have
right.
A few engineers to really work on getting it precise for the connector. So they actually have to have microscopes and 3D models, and really to see how they get the spring out for the terminal and release.
So it'll actually push. You know, I had an argument with one of my technicians the other day, and he has been in the Audi space for a long time and in the new car dealership, and we had this argument, and he says connectors don't fail. And I'm like, they do. And he's like, no, the plastic fails, but the pin itself doesn't fail. I said, no, I mean, like, I'm telling you, I've had cars I can go over and I can touch the connector.
Yeah, full on.
And he said, well, but in the dealership, the protocol is we never replace the connector. If you want to replace something, you replace the whole harness. You don't just replace the connector. That seems asinine to me.
Well, you're in a dealership.
It's a lot of cost to me. It's really costly to rip out all the things and put it in. So I think this is kind of the logic behind what we're trying to do. We try to make sure that we have tools for the engineer or technician, so that he can repair it to a professional standard.
Right.
And we also have a partnering with another company who do crimp tools, so that they actually measure how they crimp during the crimp, so it becomes perfect. So really close around the.
Do you sell that tool as well?
Yeah, we sell it as well, but we mostly sell things to the OEM. So the OEM buys the kit, and we put a kit together for the OEM. So for Aston Martin, they asked us to do something for the chassis harness, and we did that. And for Volvo, we took their connectors and did it. And the same thing with this machine learning system, or the AI system, is that we take the connectors, and we have produced our own scanning robot, and so we can get pictures from all angles of the connector or any other component for that matter, and then use that, do a lot of special processing around that. The special processing is quite important because in the beginning there were a lot of problems with light. If it was too yellow or too white or too the kind of the difference between being inside and outside.
Okay.
So we had based on that became kind of poor recognition. But now we've done a lot of things really to make sure that we get high precision, and that's why we need to be in control of the whole, as they say, data set generation, which is in the AI term is to control how to generate the things that you train the machine learning system on.
What type of coverage do we see with this? How many brands would it detect that connector for?
It's difficult because we have concentrated on we have done for Volvo, and I think we did also recently for some McLaren and some others. But we usually make a deal with the OEM to take care of theirs. The difficulty to do that for independent is that there's such a big flora of variety. A lot of the connectors are the same, so they're very similar between the brands.
Yeah.
But you never know. And they're also added on this as a big issue with some of them are restricted. Some of the connectors are only restricted. So like Mercedes don't allow anyone else to use a connector from Costal or wherever. So that means that it's kind of difficult to make something for the independent unless you can go kind of broad and work with a wholesaler who supplies you with the connectors and scans them. And we're talking to a few to do that as well.
Well, that's what I was sitting here thinking about is it Connector Experts, the website? And so they have it all cataloged and all that data is already there.
Yeah.
So you think...
But they don't... it's not the same though. The fine pigtails is the same thing too. The price is the price. The prices are a little high. So when you buy their connectors, it's $80 plus shipping, plus the little wire kit or whatever. So it ends up being about $130, $140 for a 2-wire connector that there is no way to get other than buy the entire harness, because it's a Toyota and it's on a 2006 whatever, and the old one melted. So, but what they don't have is a way to identify them. You have to go, okay, is it a 1-pin, 2-pin, 3-pin, male, female? What color is it? And then you're going by picture.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that looks right.
Yeah.
And then
it was a while back that Ford went to, I want to say they like reverted and went to a paper catalog. Like you could.
they've always done that. They've always been like that.
Well,
PDFs.
I know, but I want to say there was
PDFs looking for the connector.
Wasn't there a change? They had, it was like they had the connectors on Repair Link, and then all of a sudden they weren't on there anymore, and you couldn't find them or something to that effect.
If they sell the whole harness, it's cataloged. The whole harness. If it's an individual pigtail, you have to go into their Motorcraft, which is their aftermarket stuff, and then they'll have every single one of their available pigtails cataloged in a PDF, and you just have to scroll through. But it's the same thing: 1-pin, 2-pin, 3-pin, 4-pin, whatever, male, female, and then you start flipping through looking for one, and they could be two and same connector, but you can't tell from the picture. One's 7 millimeters wide, and the other one is 5 millimeters wide, and you're going to order one thinking it's the right one, and then it shows up
it's
not
quite
the right
funny
one.
because when I remember, we've been approaching a lot of the German OEMs as well, and talked to them, and they usually say, "Yeah, all of our stuff are sorted out. We sell them small pigtails or harnesses, and that's so it works." Then I went when I talked to the department, the headquarters for each of them, and then I went to a local dealer, and I said, "Yeah, harnesses and connectors is such a mess. We never get the right one. We get it wrong, and we don't never find them." And I think this is the kind of the thing for us is that if you take a picture of something and immediately get it, it takes seconds or a fraction of seconds. But to search for something in the catalog, it takes hours or sometimes days if you don't find it. You have to
it's not even the searching. The searching's fine. You can put up with the searching. But to get the wrong one, have it shipped in, 2 days later, car's down, then you've got the wrong one. Now you start to search back over, and you have to cross your fingers. I think Volkswagen, from my experience, Volkswagen's been the only one that will, you call them and say, "Hey, I got an oil pressure switch. It's failed. It leaked oil. It runs up the wire. Can you get me one?" And they'll sell you the empty cavity, the individual wires, and then the little weather pack thing. But what you don't end up with is the tool. So you end up using a universal one and fidget.
And then you can work and the plastic starts getting bent or misshaped, and then you put it in a terminal and it just backs out again. So and then you're never gonna.
Yeah, well, and for us, like Volvo connectors, that's a place we've had a ton of issues because we'll order the connector. And they're like, "Well, it has to come from Sweden. It's going to be 3 weeks." And then it shows up, and it's the wrong freaking connector. And you're like, "But what am I supposed to do with this?" Well, they're like, and they. I should not say this, but I'm going to. Our Volvo dealer is not exactly the pristine example of a parts department. Okay,
it's a guy. He's going, "I'm on lunch." Our guy will tell us, "Hey, I'm on lunch, and we'll have to call you back." Okay.
Then why'd you We'll bring the information back and tell the guys in Gothenburg about that for sure.
Well, and that's the thing that we're up against is we're trying to blend that consumer satisfaction with us, right? And at the end of the day, they don't care whose fault it is. The part is not right. Yeah. They don't care whose fault it is. The part's not here. It's me, right? And I look at the people in our circles and I say, these guys run the top 1% of shops in the nation. And if I can't get it right and they can't get it right, then the system's broken on the other side, right? But in the same respect, the people in that parts department, it doesn't matter to them.
No, but for sure, when the people we meet at Volvo, they really love to make sure all workshops can repair their vehicles because they really want to make sure that no one complains about them.
Yeah.
So they need to be repaired quickly and efficiently. So sure.
For sure. And that's we've had that conversation about Volvo before. Is that in the States they can be so hard to repair that consumers are like, I don't know, I don't want one. right? And the ability to get parts and get things timely. And I know you may love them, and I'm not saying I dislike Volvo. I'm just saying
It's the same 5 things that break.
what all the insulation falls off the wire.
No, that's old Volvo. That's like 90s Volvo. They're not the newer ones are much better. They're much better.
They really are. They really are. But you're right. The crankcase ventilation, the oil traps.
All of that garbage needs to be replaced. If a car comes in with a lean code, all of it gets ripped out and you put it all new.
Yeah.
Because if that one hose that you didn't, you're like, that hose is probably okay. No, it's not.
It just split from top to all the way to the bottom.
No, it now is the one causing the code. And the car will leave for 2 weeks and then come back with a code. So is the software available to anybody, or how's that work?
No, actually, it will be. We are kind of do it like a white label. So this means that we have an app that is connected to a backend system, and the backend is where the AI inference takes place.
Okay.
So we take a picture with the app and then send it to a system where the actual recognition happens, and then they send back the part number and also the information about the part. So which terminal to use,
documents,
all the documentation, and we can put anything in there. So if anyone wants to like schematics, we can bring that in as well. But the main thing is that it's not going to be Wiretronic or Wire Vision as we call this product. Okay. It's going to be the OEM or the wholesaler's brand on the app.
Okay.
So other than the OEs, though, are you talking to anybody else?
It's like wholesalers who would be selling connectors or who would be selling spare parts.
Like SMP, Standard Motor products would be...
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We just installed a scanning robot at a big wholesale outside Milan, where they actually going to span, I think, 6 to 18 months now to scan every part they have. So you get a 3D model. Mm-hmm. First for the catalogs, so they can have 3 models of all catalogs, but then also looking to train in identification system on that.
So the thing that spoke most to me about this technology is the chainsaw chain, because you showed me how we can scan a chainsaw chain.
Actually, we're talking about automotive now all the time, but we're going for other customers, outside automotive as well, for sure.
Well, it's really interesting because you were showing me that it could even tell down to the link.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, to ensure that this is the right chain.
This is the right chain, yeah.
That revolutionizes so much about not just the automotive industry, right? It is impressive.
Yeah. If we can identify a chain, I mean, if this is old or rusty or something, and we get the right one, this is very difficult. So I think it's more difficult than connectors.
Yes.
So that's what we...
Connectors are colorful and they have a lot of visible signs that they look different.
Right.
But, so this knowledge is our IP or the value of us, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking of all the different things that you could use that in.
Could it be expanded out into underhood components?
Yeah.
Hoses?
Yeah. Sure.
Any part.
Are you working on that?
Yeah, we are looking for customers.
Hoses are a nightmare, by the way.
Yeah. But we're looking for customers, all right, with a lot of spare parts, of course.
Yeah, when it comes to hoses,
service
as long as it's distinguishable for us as humans to see that there's a difference in the way things looks, AI can do a slightly better job in the identification.
So we deal with a lot of you take a BMW, right? At lunch, we were talking about the fact that BMW, when you replace a valve cover gasket, you're replacing the valve cover. And so I brought up the fact that there's plastic hoses all around the valve cover, right? And so a lot of times we'll pull them off and they'll snap. And we went through an ordeal with BMW a couple weeks back where we called and we said, hey, we need this part. And the parts guy said, I'm pretty sure I think it's this part. And so they send us that part and it's like, nah, that's not it. Okay, well, here, I'm going to try this one. I'm going to send you this one. It could be it too. And so we're looking, it's on a screen.
Yeah.
And it's this tiny little picture and you can zoom in, but the way it's laying on the picture, it doesn't look like the part that you've got in your hands, and you can't see all the bends and you can't see the intricacies of it.
And you don't see the part number on that? Or
No,
it's
I wish that'd be
long
great.
worn off, or the
It's
sticker's
gone.
gone, or
Yeah.
and so like the thing about a hose is right. If you pull it up in an image for us, well, in that image you see it's got a bend here and it goes over here and it turns and it does this, but on that picture it's flat, right? So you can't see it, or they'll use diagrams that it's just a drawing.
I'll give you
of
one
it.
better. We had a Toyota with an evap hose,
Mhm.
and the part number, we ordered a part number, comes in, it was the wrong one. I'm looking at the catalog, and we went into PartsTech, and we had the whole breakdown, and I'm like, I'm looking at it going, okay, there's only 2 hoses, evap hoses, that connect to this fuel tank. And we ordered this one, it's wrong. This one has to be it. There's nothing else. You take that part number, you Google search it, because you want to look at an image. Yeah. It is a 2-connection hose, and what I have on the car is 3 connections.
Yeah.
It has a split. So I call the dealer. I'm like, hey, I've got this part number. Is it matching to this car? Yeah, it's correct to the car. Great. Why is it showing that it only has 2? He's like, yeah, it looks like it has 2. Okay, the one I have on the car has 3. I don't know what to tell you. We're just going to have to order it and see. We ordered it. It showed up. It had 3. All of the pictures were wrong. All of them.
All of them.
The pictures were wrong. The descriptions were wrong.
Yeah.
His catalog, my catalog, everybody's catalog showed 2 connections. It was a 3-connection hose. That's where it's coming in, and we're going to 3D scan all these suckers.
It's kind of a typical issue, exactly. Because another company asked us about like brake discs and said they always send 3 brake discs because they take one that they think it is, and then they take one on the other side and on the other side of size or whatever it means, and then send it, and then you have to send them back, the wrong ones back, because then otherwise it will be waste of time and wasting the time when you have to.
German manufacturers, they always have to put 3 different sizes of rotors. So 280, 302, 350. You're like.
And I don't know if you fellas have figured this out yet. When you throw the metric system on a bunch of American rednecks, things go downhill quick. Okay, it's bad.
It's for like.
But you're measuring it, and you're like, okay, my option's 280 or 298. You measure it, and you're like, this is 287. Well, which one do I choose? I'm not kidding. That happens. And you're like, oh, because you're measuring it in the slightly wrong spot, or there's rust. And
kind of that's also what we kind of try to combine. I mean, with a chainsaw, we combine that with counting. So we take a picture and count
the links, right?
Yeah, the links. And the other part with discs, where we actually try to find a way where we actually can have like a scaler behind. So the scalers we've been using are like similar, almost like QR codes that you have behind, or could even have a what do you call them? A measurement stick.
Ruler. A ruler.
Ruler, exactly. Yeah. For to put behind, and then we use that as to make sure that you can get it right. Because using tools in the telephones like AR tools, they usually are not so precise. And I mean, that you need to be precise, otherwise it will be
the wrong one.
And then the wrong one is.
So let's say a manufacturer comes on with you today, and in my mind, I couldn't see why they wouldn't just instantly say, "Hey, we have to have this technology. Let's go." Right?
Yeah, usually. I mean, the mechanics. We tried it out the system with the OEM in Scandinavia, and they tried it out in Europe, US, and China. Yeah.
Okay.
And they just loved all the mechanics. Just loved it. They gave full points on everything, but then they say the headquarters say, "Yeah, it's fantastic, but it's the dealers that has the problem. We don't." Have a problem.
Yeah, that's not their issue.
Yeah. But I think nowadays it's all cars are sold as financed, cars mostly, which means that the problem is in usually it's financed also by the OEMs financing company. So it's the problem isn't any. So it's probably just a way of they had just realized that they actually own the problem, but at the moment most OEMs they kind of struggle with costs. They're a bit scared when going into new innovations and things like that.
Wait.
So is the opportunity then going to be entirely because this needs to trickle down to the retail aftermarket independent repair shop. That's a huge opportunity. is the opportunity then with specific aftermarket manufacturers or even like cataloging companies?
That's what I was getting ready to say is what kind of workload is that? I'm thinking of a GPC. I'm thinking of an O'Reilly's. I'm thinking of a Toyota, whoever comes in and says, hey, I want to implement this. Well, now they have to have that inventory to be able to scan.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you also, on top of that, have to be able to implement into your systems. There's a lot of variables there.
I don't know. I don't know that would be that difficult. I'm just thinking who would want to jump in, like you look at like an Epicor parts cataloging company.
Yeah. A PartsTech.
A PartsTech. I don't know if PartsTech has the bandwidth though. You think they got the bandwidth?
But I mean they don't have the parts, right? You would have to set this up with a GPC. You'd have to set this up with an Advanced Auto Parts. You'd have to set this up with the individual dealers.
GPC, you mean Napa?
Yeah. RepairLink is probably the best shot you've got at this.
Maybe, but they're grabbing the OE's cataloging, and they're slapping it up there, and then it is what it is. I called in to, I think it was Mercedes. We were looking for I think it was a hose too. It was a coolant hose. That's what it was. It was coolant hose on an ML. The stupid thing was leaking. You pull up the catalog and everything's just floating in space. There's no context. Is this the front of the car, the back of the car? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And so I called the dealer up and I'm like, hey, this thing doesn't make any sense. This is the right hose. It goes from here to here. He's like, man, I don't know. I'll send you my picture. He sends me the picture. It's the exact same thing. I'm looking at a RepairLink and I'm like, the crap am I supposed to do with this thing? There's no way to know. So they have RepairLink's just pulling the information from the OE. Like, they're not going to be able to do anything with it. It makes sense to go to like a Standard Motor Products, SMP, because they sell connectors. But there's more, like you're saying, rotors, hoses, anything that can give that you can get context with.
Yes, I think if we only get the hold of the connector itself, it would be the wholesaler. But then also getting kind of background information, like to provide where it is, the schematics and all those things. That easy to put together. And also, we've been also playing around with the idea of say where is it located on the vehicle. So taking a picture on the vehicle and then identifying the post of it, it's fine. Then we would know if it's in the front, around the lights or in backlights or wherever. And then we would combine that information and then we would increase precision of actually what it is and where it should be.
Yeah. And all that information would be incredibly valuable to the person looking up the parts.
Yeah.
Which would cut down on inaccuracies, turnaround time.
I'm realizing who it is at the dealership who is complaining about it. The part guys.
Yeah.
Right? Because the part guys are complaining about it because they recognize that, I'm not going to have a job tomorrow because this customer is going to scan said part and click order.
Maybe. I don't know.
Usually, when we tried it out, it was usually the mechanics that used it. And then they created a list of the parts that they needed, and then just gave the list, send the list as you can just generate an email, and the email turn up at the parts guy, and he would order it. But I mean, the easiest way was this is the parts I need that list, and then send out a request and get it later on as well. And also the other things we've been looking at is that if you have the picture and you take a picture, you can also log quality issues. Not only logging it, you also would identify the parts that you are seeing in the picture, where they are, and then you get a kind of content about what issues are there that had to be reported.
I mean, this literally shapes our industry in a completely different way when it comes to the parts industry, right? Like it shifts the way that we've been doing this. If this were to be widely adopted, we wouldn't be doing business the same way we've always done business in a matter of years, right?
Yeah, but there's the, like he's saying, like you're saying, it's the profit motive. Like the OEs are like, we don't care, and the dealer's like, we're not paying for it. So then everybody's looking at each other, going, "Who's going to blink first?"
I think usually that's exactly what happens. So, since the technology is there and it's being developed, and the ones who picked it up and realize. It's not a difficult business case to realize actually its value in doing things quicker than slower. Mm-hmm. It will come there and then suddenly it will just roll out. But I think it's kind of similar to most technology where it starts to come in, people are hesitant, And then when they start using it, they just love it. I mean, for me, it's just so boring to try to find anything. I mean, when I do housework at home, find the right kind of screw to put a toilet on the wall, and it's the wrong one, the wrong length, and you just try to find where the hell do I find this?
Yeah.
And then you just have to
but
get it done quickly.
But also when the user realizes how much time he saves. Yeah. I mean, if you save 30 minutes, for example, by using this.
That was my point on that panel today, because they brag. I shouldn't say they brag, but they're proud of the fact that you can access the OE information, and that for the most part you can get to it. Right? It changes often, and the website changes, and the way that you log in changes, and the source of the data, and where you go, and what button you click, and where you click that button, and the color of the button changes all the time. Mm-hmm. And society has shifted from that being acceptable to we will not tolerate that. Yeah. Right? And so, for instance,
I think it's the other way around. What are you talking about? Yeah, they push an update on your phone. Everything changes.
No, hold on.
Just overnight, you look at you get used to your
don't
movements,
have any choice.
and then you open up and you're like, "The hell is this?"
But for instance, they just changed the UI in the Google phones. And the UI is a little more similar to the iPhone, but the UI
Did they change it? They didn't push it to mine. That's freaking me out.
Tomorrow you wake up and you can't use your phone anymore. But the UI is intuitive, right? And that's what I'm getting at. So, for instance, Facebook, right? Facebook will change things, and they will break Facebook, and it is so frustrating. Because we are so used to technology that
Do you
works.
guys use Facebook in Sweden? What's in Sweden?
Yeah,
See, he just shook his head. He's like,
Facebook is used by the older guys. TikTok by the younger guys.
do they?
That's us. But I don't use it.
He doesn't have TikTok.
I have Instagram instead. If that's okay, I guess.
So, but they'll break something in Facebook. And it is infuriating when it doesn't work like it's supposed to, or it doesn't work like it used
Does
to.
it
It's
upset
not.
you?
It does upset me. And so my point in saying that is that they continually to run into these issues. The modern consumer does not tolerate that. Well.
But you said something about age, young people, middle people, or whatever. You said that the different tolerances are different. Yeah.
I read an article a while back that said that you will literally lose a young person's focus past 14 clicks. If it takes 14 clicks to get somewhere, the chance of them actually following through to get there is very low.
So now, I think the demand then is that it has to be smooth and intuitive.
Mm-hmm. But the problem with intuitive is that actually when I grew up, I started up with Lisa, Mac, and those kind of things.
Yeah.
And when Lisa came, it was fantastic. So I started to make my own kind of user interface. I don't know really what I did, but I tried to do the same kind of things. But now it seems like it's not so intuitive and UX and user friendly. It's different now because it's something the designer perceives how he thinks that someone will take it. And then they stop thinking actually the user uses something in a way that he's been used to do. And suddenly they change that and just thinks that really something that is much more clever. And it can be clever, but for the user it's different. So he just stops with. And I discovered that I went from Android to iPhone only half a year ago, and I thought it was so crap. And my belief was Apple was best. They had always been doing it, but now I went to they actually have no idea. And the thing is just behind because I'm used to Android.
Yeah,
and it's different. And I think this is something user interface developers have to think about. Is actually it's not so much about making it user friendly; it makes it be consistent.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. It has to be consistent. And we've talked a lot this week about the user interface with CarPlay and Android Auto and the interface in the car. And I think manufacturers are all out here trying to say, "Oh, we want to go our own way. We want to make this all our
I think that's
our
just
thing."
GM. They're going to figure out that's a bad idea.
Well, but even the way that you scroll, right? I've got this Jaguar rental car. I don't know who in the world decided that I would. I mean, is a rental car company? What possesses you to buy a Jaguar?
Some people, I don't know. They won't do it. I don't know.
They flip it quickly. So
do they also own the tow company? But so, even the way that it scrolls across the screen and the dots at the bottom of the screen are consistent with Android and Apple, right? The way that we interact is often shaped by these little devices. Mm-hmm. And so they're forced to try and create that environment that is around the technology we're used to. I just don't know how they're going to get away from that. I don't think it's possible.
Well, even if they do, I mean, you get into a car now, and before it connects to Android Auto, you've got the OE menu. It's trash. You're clicking around trying to find the maintenance. This was like a 19, maybe it was a 21. It was a newer Audi Q5. And it had some maintenance features were on the screen, but it depends on the model. So if you've got a certain trim level, you can adjust the maintenance stuff on the MMI thing, right?
Yeah.
But if you have too low of a maintenance model, it kind of looks like you can do something with the maintenance minder and all, but it's not there. No, you got to use the scan tool. And by the way, sometimes you have to try 3 scan tools before you get one that actually work. But they put that stuff in there, and it's not intuitive. It doesn't make any sense. There's no consistency to it because they'll change it from year to year. 17 works this way. 19 works a completely different way. It's trash. So I don't know why they would try to go, hey, we're going to be software developers or UI developers. Like,
I read something once, and it was around how much Google had invested in the UX and just the research and watching the clicks and watching where your hand sat on the phone. And if you were idle,
that's creepy.
Where did your thumb sit on the phone?
That's creepy.
And it was the level of detail that they went into and the number of psychologists they hired and all of this information that got poured into. How do we make it to where a human being uses this? And in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, you've engineered this to such a degree that we can't put it down, right? Like, I mean, you look out here, everybody's walking around like this, right? And so they've engineered it so well that it has become part of who we are. David,
maybe you. So are you now a fan of Apple or no?
Well, I think I accept it.
You've accepted that you're just going to live a mediocre life now.
I should go back or not. I will see. We'll see. Well,
everybody that tells me like the Apple's the superior choice has to buy into the entire ecosystem.
Yes.
So it's like I've got to have an iPad, I've got to have a MacBook, I've got to be hooked up with the cloud, I've got to have iMessage. If I've got all of that, then it makes sense to have the iPhone because it's all interconnected.
I think the main reason for me getting is actually they are strongest platform so that we can run a local neural network on it and to have a big enough networks so that it can work. And that's compared to the other models, they're not really there yet. But I think they're kind of ramping up.
Is it too segmented or
no? It's we have our neural networks on the cloud on a fairly big computer that can crunch the data quickly. Mm-hmm. But for kind of like military purposes, you need to have it compartmentalized, and then you need to run on the edge device on the end device, and that's actually where Apple right now are better. Yeah.
So did the computer that's crunching the numbers, is that your computer? Are you buying it from somebody?
Actually, right now, when we do the training, it's our computer. So we have a lot of, as they say, GPUs, NVIDIA GPUs. But when we do the inference, which is when you have trained the system, and that's where you actually get the identification done. That's done on the cloud. And right now we're using in Microsoft Azure. Okay. And we started off using Google, but since we did some tests in China, Google is it doesn't exist really in China for those. They don't. The Chinese government don't let them work there. So we just flipped it and went over to Microsoft Azure, and we just buy the services there. And I think for this one, we don't need some really heavy machines. it's a big network, but we don't need so really big machines for it.
Right. How many NVIDIA GPUs did you snatch up?
Yeah, well, actually, there was like a half a year we couldn't buy them. Actually,
yeah.
So I think
no, you could. You were just paying 3 times the price for them.
David went ahead and bought a couple just so.
I bought one. Yeah. I paid way too much for it.
Yeah. Everything for Bitcoin mining.
Well, I didn't get an NVIDIA. I got an AMD, but they were still triple the price.
The issue is actually with AMD, they don't have the supporting software infrastructure behind it, where NVIDIA really have put a lot of effort into behind the CUDA framework and those things. So that's why everyone in machine learning more or less use that. But everyone trying to do catch up there as well. I mean, even Intel is going into the game as well.
Intel, yeah. But NVIDIA is hedging all of their bets on AI.
Yes.
Where everybody else is like, we just want to make GPUs. NVIDIA's
they're fantastic. I mean, a lot of the tools and the tools that AI developers use, fantastic tools developed in NVIDIA. They really understand to help out there. And they really seem to be progressive and also thinking out the software structure around PyTorch, which is the main kind of development platform. It's really good.
Interesting.
And that's, I think, what we're really impressed with our engineers. They really catch that up early and they find it really easy to accept and use these tools and really be.
So you said you had connected with a university to start the ball roll. How does that even work?
Yeah, we actually we discovered that it's impossible to get any experienced AI developer or engineers.
Okay.
So what we did was actually got in touch, I think by accident actually, with a few who just got an exam and had done their thesis projects
on AI
with the different companies. And I think what they told me is actually they liked that I actually knew AI quite well. So when I did, I liked to work with a team who actually knew what they were talking about. And because in Sweden, it's mostly kind of a consulting company that do things around AI, not so much big companies. I mean, Spotify is, of course, really big in AI. But except for that, there's a lot of consulting companies. And they really don't go in deep. They actually do the kind of
this kind of high level presentation on it.
And that's kind of what distracted
these
guys.
Exactly.
So they got on board, and after 1 year, we set up some really cool thesis projects, and that's what they really liked. They were kind of really on leading edge, and so that's kind of the way we've been recruiting, getting them in on thesis projects and doing some really cool stuff there. That's beneficial to us, but also kind of somewhat academic, interesting, but also
for sure
for them.
How many years? If 5 years, you can choose AI in the last year.
Yeah, we've been having 5 years been working it, but I myself been into.
But I mean, the engineers they choose this the last year. Right?
The last year, so they are in Sweden. I think they use what they call Bologna model, which is 3 years to get a bachelor and 2 years to get a master. And all of them that works for us, they have a master in AI or in artificial intelligence.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
What?
That there was a master in AI. I mean, and
universities now have degrees in absolutely anything.
I mean, the leading ones are the Americans. I mean, Stanford and Berkeley, MIT. I mean, they're the one who have the most momentum. And there's some fantastic courses on the web, and mostly by Coursera.
Sure.
And
I'm signed up with them.
Deep Learning AI by Andrew Ng. Fantastic. They're really, I mean, fantastic lecture as well. It's really enjoyable to learn. My wife been complaining because I spend a lot of vacations just sitting and doing all these things with it, but I couldn't help. It was so fun.
Right. Well, I think that the majority of our listeners are going to take great reprieve in the fact that you don't think AI is going to take over tomorrow. And it's not going to take their jobs, and they're going to be okay.
We heard that the robots were going to put the tires on and off.
I think this is going to be the thing. I mean, I think journalists and sometimes even politicians, they want to create this kind of hyped up, stressful situation. But in actuality, I think things takes much longer time than expected. And on the other side, suddenly it has happened. So in some ways things are quicker. But I think mostly it's like My grandmother, 30 years ago, said that all the robots will take over. So what will all the humans do? And now in Sweden, the unemployment is much, much lower than at that time. And there's some robots in factories and stuff like that. And I think it's going to be the same. It's going to be the big problem for the future is actually that it will be not enough people to do all things that we want to do.
Right.
And I think also, which is also positive, that the overpopulation will start to decrease when people are getting better. And that's also who will do all the jobs for us, clean the apartment or do boring stuff. And that probably is where we should focus on getting automation and robots to do that.
And that's one of the things that I took away from this morning's presentation as he was talking about that and looking at the different avenues that it could take, and the fact that it's more focused right now in the development that we're seeing is about improving the human element, right? Not taking the human out of the element. Yep. How do we make them faster? How do we make them more efficient? How do we get them the information faster?
Yeah.
And the JetBlue thing came up because he's talking about if you call them and they give you this information. And I know that American Airlines is using something similar to that. They called me on, I guess they called me yesterday. First thing in the morning, it was 6 a.m. And they called and they said, there's a 90% probability that your flight out of Phoenix on Saturday is getting canceled. And I'm like, well, somebody had to tell them that, right? They're not just going to automatically call me up to tell me that. They usually wait till I'm standing at the gate 10 minutes before I need to go, you know? And so that is interesting to me because it paints a very different picture than what mainstream media and everything else is talking about.
I think this is exactly where it's going. You actually provide the right information at the right time.
Yeah. And that's intriguing to me, right? Because the human mind is a very complex thing, and we think in very unique patterns, and we all think differently. I've read a lot into psychology and how we think and the different thought tracks or the ways that we're raised, and we think differently than Bob over here, whoever it may be. We think and we process information differently, but the ability to get the information faster and more accurately and know where to go for the information and be able to process very, very quickly takes a human being that's 50% efficient and makes them 100% efficient just like that. Now, I mean, in the same respect, it can make you lazy, right? They redid Gmail on Google phones, and it took away, like when I go to type somebody's email address, unless it's someone I sent an email to like super recently, it doesn't auto-populate unless I've saved them. And so now I'm like, oh man. So I'm going back and I'm like searching people. And I've been doing it like this for years, right? I don't ever save anybody's email address. In case you email me, you know what's up. But I think those are the things that we become lazy to. Yeah. And that technology comes in and we kind of check out. When they take that technology away, it's almost like that little bit of a wake-up call. Oh, yeah. Uh-oh, you don't know how to do this anymore. Whoops.
It's not a bad thing, though. Because it's a menial task, like you're saying. Yeah. It's the boring stuff.
Yeah,
like,
stuff, yeah.
Why do I need to know what your email address is? So, like, let the stupid thing figure it out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They took it away.
Yeah, I wonder why they do that. Yeah.
I hate Gmail
to make it annoying.
I know. That's got to be what it was. Yeah. Kind of just like an awareness. We're in control here. Gmail.
It's too clunky. I don't like it.
We use Google Chat for the shop.
Yeah, I can't use any of that.
I like it for
Suite stuff. I'm a Microsoft person. I like my Outlook.
I want to know. I started to ask the guy, and I didn't think it would be appropriate in the middle of his presentation. You know the video that they did as he's asked it to make a video of him talking about brakes and how to convey to the client they need brakes, and then it translates it to Spanish. Yeah. Directly after that, he said you could spend between $1,000 for a video and $10,000 for a video. I'm curious how much he paid for that video for that presentation.
Yeah,
that's expensive.
Yeah. It's kind of expensive to generate that kind of picture.
Yeah,
the detail of it.
Right, because I mean that was
that's so we post this stuff on YouTube, and one of the questions that now asks this is new is anything that you're about to put up AI generated? That's what it asks now.
Okay.
Because it wants to be able to tell somebody, hey, just so you know, this is fake.
Yeah.
This isn't the president speaking. It's been AI generated. if it can't really be that expensive, because you see some goofy stuff go out there.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you one of the ways you just change how the face is changing and behaving and speaking can do. I mean, you can just change how the mouth is changing when you speak. So I think that could be not so expensive. But I haven't tried it. I mean, I'm not so really interested in that space. But there's a lot of money to be made around these generative things. There's a company called Stability AI that seems to be doing a lot of that. I mean, I'm not sure if it's. I mean, probably something for the film industry seems to be able to do a lot of that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't. It's still the technology is going to have to advance quite a bit. It's still a little clunky. We had there was a gentleman. He was posting some copywriting. He was trying to sell something in one of our comments in one of the videos. He posted the video up, and in the comments section, the guy decides he's going to try to pitch his product. The problem was he had, when you ask AI to write you something, AI tends to use words that are not generally used. The vernacular is not common. It's not. It's an English word, just nobody uses it. No human uses it.
Yeah.
And so you can always tell that, hey, that's been AI generated because of the usage of specific words. And I called them out and I said, hey, if you're going to AI generate this, it's fine. I AI generate a lot of stuff. But I have to go back and I got to reread it and start changing words and put this word in front of that one and changing it around so it sounds like a human wrote it and not AI. And I think the film industry and just stuff like that that's what's preventing, I think, it from progressing any further. It's not far enough advanced.
You kind of need to switch from 3.0 or 3.5 to 4.0 if you're going to do that, because it definitely makes it much more.
Is 4.0 smoother?
Much
cleaner?
smoother.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a pretty dramatic difference.
Well, I think it is. Yeah. But it's right now. One of the most interesting things that happened yesterday was actually Meta released Llama 3 as an open source software in a model. It's not.
Yeah.
And they're going to release also this 400 billion parameter version of that, also open source. So that's going to really be something really interesting to see what OpenAI.
I think it will shift. I think it will shift the development.
Something that's
and how
expensive
hard
will
they're
be cheap or free.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Well, I think it's really good because at least
but
people.
Is it much?
It's much. It looks like it's going to be. It's really good. I think the ones who tested looks really good. It looks really like.
What's that difference between that and what Google tried to do?
Well, they say they want to pay everyone who uses it have to set up a schema and pay for it. And now it's open source. You mean that someone who will take the model and use it for their purposes. There also is something in the licensing agreement that I'm not sure about the details there. But
I'm sure there's something in the background. It's like, hey, just let you know, we can see everything you're doing and we own it.
Yeah, but that's the usual thing. But I think it's kind of interesting with Meta. They are not the one who were first with ChatGPT and they were not Gemini or Bart with Google. They're not really the ones who were on the leading edge there. The only thing they needed is a lot of compute, and then they trained a model that was slightly bigger or bigger than the one they were on. And how do they go to market? Do the same as the other ones? No, probably not. I mean, they worked so much on PyTorch and made that also open source available for everyone. And that, I think, changes the game for everyone. So suddenly, I think what they are into is to see how they can at least get the legs away from all the competitors somehow.
Yeah.
Where are they going to make their money?
Yeah, that's interesting. So,
like Google, Android's open source. So if you want to create a user interface or whatever for your phone, anybody can get it. Yeah, it's free. And you just have to develop it. Where Google made their money was, hey, everybody's going to buy the apps from us because everybody's going to want to buy the apps from us, and we get a little cut of every single app that gets sold on our Play Store. But you can do whatever you want with this user Android. Pretty genius. Apple decided to go, hey, we're going to lock everything down. Everything's through us. I just don't. Where does Facebook make their cash on this?
I think they make it on Facebook, so the advertisement that's so.
Yeah, but I'm saying the AI stuff.
Yeah, I'm
so
not sure. I think they provide more services, different things, and so they kind of they add to their kind of
you're more functioning Facebook
functions and all that stuff.
I think they're always chasing the bullet.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No matter what, they're going to be chasing the bullet, and all of them are trying to balance what we're going to give away to keep people engaged enough to pay us for. And I think you're right. I think advertisement is the leading thing for Facebook. If they can keep their platform relevant enough that now they can sell advertisements on said platform, and they can keep creators engaged to where they'll be there posting their stuff, that's the model. But they don't want to be MySpace, right? They don't want to fade back out of this. And I could not imagine being in the C-suite of an organization like that trying to balance this right now, right? Because the technology is moving so fast, and it's changing, and the mind of the consumer is changing so fast, and what they want and what they expect is changing.
What's the difference between where's the big shift? Because Elon Musk came out with an AI open source something or another.
Exactly. I think. I think that they are more on par competitor to the Llama 3 model. So I think that's interesting to see. Probably there's going to be a competition between them, and so it probably might be the one who are fairest, clearest, or doesn't provide so much what we call is the kind of dreaming factor. We actually just invent things, invent the answer. I can't remember the name of it, but that's the thing that probably the model that is best and more consistent, that will be the winner.
It doesn't start spitting out gibberish, or doesn't have. What do you mean? Like it doesn't start spitting out gibberish, or doesn't have a bunch of caveats on the back end that like, hey, if you're going to use this, you've got to click to agree to all. OpenAI seem to have the best or the most transparent model. It's like you can use our dumbed down version, or you can get all the features. You just got to pay a little bit.
The dumbed down version told one of my technicians the other day that he was the pinnacle of auto repair. And I said, I'm sorry, but it lied to you. It was like, your input was off, buddy.
But I mean, it's very interesting to see how these kind of things just turn out. There's so much money into it, and so much compute. Means like football areas full of compute just to crunch it. Well, it's going to be easy for small companies to do it themselves, and that's why it's good for us as a small company to be able to get a already trained model and fine tune it. And so that's going to be interesting.
There was a video documentary a while back. I'll see if I can find it. I can't remember the name of it. It was Chip Wars or something to that effect. And it was talking about Taiwan, and it was talking about the U.S. and the money that the U.S. was investing to bring that technology here to make the
TSMC.
And the difference between the 4nm and the 5nm chips, and how much the U.S. was willing to invest to be able to control that technology, or at least be able to compete with Taiwan and China on said technology. And I think it indicates the fact they were willing to spend so much money, and they were willing to do so much to get it. It shows how powerful this technology is going to be, right? Because this is what's shifting and shaping the direction that we're headed, whether we like it or not. And so it's interesting to see they were willing to start world conflicts over making that happen, right? And I mean, that's saying something, right? I don't know. I probably shouldn't say that. Start world conflicts over a butterfly.
I'm pretty sure we are willing to start world conflicts for absolutely any reason. We don't care. We're like, hey, the military industrial sector is a little lagging in their stock price. That country over there looks a little susceptible. It needs a little freedom. We need to go over there and give it a little freedom.
They said Biden was willing to give up his paycheck to get them to move from Taiwan over here. So, I mean, it must be pretty bad.
All right. Awesome, guys. That was fascinating.
We need to know how to,
Yeah.
He just said he's working with the OEs. He's working on it.
Well, I know, but
Can I buy that doodad?
But my colleagues who have been helping produce these things is that you don't tell anyone that you can buy this case. Yeah, we have to get into a project where we develop a case for you.
Okay.
And we would like to be in the case where we actually can say we have a case for some OEM, but the problem is one OEM might have like 100 connectors or 200 or 300 connectors in it, a variety of that, and that's kind of difficult to make a more generic solution. So at least for the time being, we are doing a custom case, but the case or the app has to be then developed for each and every one.
Okay.
But progressing further, when we have trained like tens of thousands of connectors.
If you have one like specific for a manufacturer, for example, because there's specialty shops out there.
Yeah.
And there are Volvo and Saab specialty shops in where I live.
Yeah.
That's all they work on is old Saabs and Volvos, mostly Saabs, because nobody else wants to work on them.
Yeah.
So you send in Kansas City. A shop's called George's Import.
Saab is very close to our headquarters. I used to work there as a welder at the time.
Really? That's awesome. He will work on the old Saab. Grumpy old man. Nobody likes to deal with him, but he's the only one willing to work on that 9393. Like, he's the only one.
Okay.
And so if you have a kit that, hey, this is our Volvo kit, this is our VW kit, this is our whatever BMW kit, that would be cool.
Yeah, as it is right now, we actually do that for the respective OEMs.
Yeah.
So and
get us part numbers.
It's a bit difficult for us to change the business model because it's kind of a different thing. We then would have to investigate to do the right connectors.
Yeah.
But it actually might be something we could consider.
Well, if you can sell it to the OEMs.
And we can buy it from the OEMs.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we need part numbers so if we can buy, because we'll just order it from the OEMs.
Yeah.
So we can get at least a kit. If we see a lot of X manufacturer and it's something that we want to get into, it makes sense for us to have a small kit like that for emergency situations.
Yeah.
8 most common connectors like you have in there, but the tools is where the tools would be legit.
And the other thing, what we're using, we also use the app so that we can make sure that we have the tools in the right place, so that like an inventory thing. So, So if there's something missing, you can buy.
Oh, that's cool.
We're working on that for a wrench manufacturer, so that in the pull out the drawer, you can see which is missing, and so they can order the right one. And because that usually seems to be a problem as well, what we understood from those.
Yeah. A lot of 10 millimeters lost.
Well, not just 10 millimeters. You ever seen a dealer tool room? It's bad news bears. It's bad, buddy.
Can't look worse than mine. All right.
All right. That was all.